A three-bedroom house in Australia sat on the market for 847 days. The price, just $68,000. That's less than a luxury car. But here's the part that should terrify you. It received exactly 3 inquiries in over 2 years, and all 3 walked away after seeing the town. This isn't about affordability, this is about survival. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why more than 15,000 Australians are currently trapped in homes they physically cannot sell, watching their life savings evaporate month after month. Today we're exposing 10 Australian towns where moving in 2026 could destroy your financial future. If you want to avoid making a $250,000 mistake, hit subscribe right now. Number 10. Whyalla, South Australia, the steel town running on borrowed time. Whyalla sells itself as South Australia's industrial backbone. Population 21,000, a proper regional city with real infrastructure. But beneath that surface, the cracks are turning into canyons. The GFG Alliance Steelworks, which employs nearly 2,000 workers, has been flirting with collapse since 2019. Every few months, there's another restructuring announcement, another round of uncertainty. Here's what the real estate agents won't tell you. Housing prices have been artificially propped up by workers who can't afford to sell at a loss. The median house price sits around $185,000, which sounds like a bargain until you realize that's down from $240,000 just 5 years ago. That's a 23% value wipeout. One family bought a 4-bedroom home in 2018 for $215,000. Today, that same house is valued at $170,000. They've lost $45,000 in equity while paying a mortgage on a property they can't escape. When the steelworks inevitably closes, Whyalla won't slowly decline. It will collapse overnight. Number 9. Gladstone, Queensland. When diversification is just an expensive lie, Gladstone looks impressive on paper. LNG exports, aluminum refineries, coal terminals. The economic reports call it diversified, but here's the truth. All of those industries are tied to the exact same commodity cycles. When global demand drops, they all contract simultaneously. Between 2012 and 2016, Gladstone's population actually shrank. Real outmigration, rental vacancy rates spiked to 8.4%, and house prices dropped 18% in 3 years. Now here's the trap. The Queensland government just announced major renewable energy projects, and suddenly property spruikers are calling Gladstone the next boomtown. Don't fall for it. Those projects are years away, and construction jobs are temporary. One investor bought 3 townhouses in 2022, convinced the boom was coming. Number 8. Port Pirie, South Australia, the lead smelter legacy nobody escapes. Port Pirie has a lead smelter that's been operating since 1889. It employs around 1,000 people directly. But here's what makes Port Pirie different. The environmental contamination is permanent. Soil lead levels in residential areas remain elevated despite decades of cleanup. The health department still recommends blood lead testing for all children under 5. This isn't historical contamination. This is ongoing exposure that families live with every single day. Young families are quietly leaving. The population peaked at 14,500 in 2016. Today, it's around 13,800 and dropping. School enrollment numbers are declining year over year. Here's the real estate reality. Houses sell for $150,000 to $200,000, which seems affordable until you realize you're rebuying into a town where the primary employer is also the primary health risk. Number 7. Morwell, Victoria. When the power runs out, Morwell was built on coal. The Hazelwood Power Station was the town's heartbeat for 6 decades. Then in March 2017, it closed. 750 direct jobs vanished overnight. Another 1,000 indirect jobs disappeared within 12 months. The government promised a just transition with retraining programs. 5 years later, unemployment still sits to 0.5% higher than the state average. But unemployment numbers hide the real story. People who had full-time skilled work are now doing part-time casual retail. The town's median income dropped 14% between 2016 and 2021. A four-bedroom house sits for sale at $285,000. It's been listed for 11 months. In Melbourne, just 150 kilometers away, that same house would be worth $850,000. But nobody's moving to Morwell because there's nothing to move for. One man worked at Hazelwood for 28 years. He bought his house in 1995 for $87,000. Today, it's worth maybe $240,000. His neighbor's house in suburban Melbourne sold last year for $1.3 million. That's the cost of betting your life on a single industry. Number 6. Collie, Western Australia, the coal town that knows it's dying. Collie is different because everyone here already knows what's coming. The town has 3 coal-fired power stations. 2 are scheduled to close by 2027. The third will follow by 2029. These are announced closure dates. The death warrant is signed. Population is already declining. From 7,500 in 2016 to around 7,100 today. When those power stations close, Collie will lose approximately 1,800 direct and indirect jobs in a town of 7,000 people. That's one in for workers. The state government keeps promising renewable energy investment. They've been promising since 2019. Meanwhile, housing prices are frozen. A 3-bedroom home sells for $280,000 to $320,000, but listings sit for 6 to 9 months. The people who will suffer most are families who bought homes in 2020 and 2021 thinking they'd found affordable living. They are now underwater on mortgages for houses that will be worth half their purchase price in 3 years. Collie isn't dying, it's already dead. It just hasn't stopped moving yet. Number 5. Cobar, New South Wales, the mine that keeps closing. Cobar has been dying and resurrecting for 140 years. Every time copper prices crash, the mines close and the town empties. Then prices recover, mines reopen, and people flood back. It's happened for times since 1960, but here's why 2026 is different. This time, the miners aren't coming back. Modern mining uses fly-in fly-out workers who live in Perth or Brisbane. They don't buy houses in Cobar, they extract wealth and leave. The town gets none of the economic benefit. Population has been declining since 2016, from 4,500 to around 3,800 today. The school lost 2 teachers last year. The hospital operates on skeleton staff. Young families are leaving because there's no future here. One property has been listed for 14 months at $195,000. It's a 3-bedroom brick home in good condition. 0 offers, not even lowball negotiations. Just silence. Number 4. Wollongong, New South Wales, the oversupply disaster nobody's talking about. Wollongong is about to be flooded with 840 new apartments in 2026. With hundreds more approved for 2027 and 2028, that sounds like growth, except developers have a problem. Current apartment prices are too low for new construction to be profitable. Here's what happens next. All those units hit the market simultaneously. Rental vacancy rates spike, prices drop, investors panic sell. That triggers more supply, prices drop further. It's a self-reinforcing collapse. Wollongong's unemployment just jumped to 5.9% and climbing. BlueScope Steel laid off 500 workers in 2023. Another 300 went in early 2024. When construction jobs contract, rental demand will crater right as hundreds of new units flood the market. One investor bought an off-the-plan apartment in 2022 for $580,000. Settlement is mid-2026. Comparable units are now selling for $520,000. He hasn't even moved in yet, and he's already $60,000 underwater. Number 3. Mount Gambier, South Australia. The town that ran out of water, Mount Gambier sits on top of a massive underground aquifer For decades, that water seemed infinite. Then in 2019, water levels started dropping dramatically. The aquifer isn't recharging fast enough. The city implemented water restrictions in 2023. Agriculture, which employs 18% of the workforce, is under existential threat. When farms fail, everything connected fails too. Processing plants, logistics, equipment suppliers, retail. Population has stagnated at 26,000 for a decade. But young people are leaving and retirees are moving in. The town is aging in place with no economic engine to reverse it. Housing prices have been flat for 5 years. A 3-bedroom house sells for $320,000 to $380,000, identical to 2019 values. That's zero capital growth when the rest of Australia saw 30% to 40% increases. Buyers are staying away because they can see what's coming. Number 2, Port Augusta, South Australia. When everything dies, Port Augusta is what happens after the power stations close. In 2016, the coal-fired stations shut down. 760 direct jobs vanished. Another 1,200 indirect jobs followed. The government promised renewable energy transition. 8 years later, unemployment still sits at 9.2%, more than double the state average. The population is collapsing from 14,500 in 2016 to barely 13,000 today. That's 11% population loss. Schools are merging. Main Street is empty shopfronts with faded for lease signs. Here's the nightmare. Houses that sold for $280,000 in 2015 are now worth $180,000. That's 36% value destruction. One family bought in 2014 for $265,000. Today, they've had it listed for 19 months at $185,000 with 0 buyers. They owe $197,000 on the mortgage. They literally cannot afford to sell. Port Augusta is the future of every single industry town in Australia. Economic obliteration with no recovery and no escape. Number 1, Karratha, Western Australia. The $800,000 trap that destroyed families. Karratha is number 1 because it represents the absolute worst-case scenario. During the mining boom, houses here sold for $800,000 to $1.2 million. A basic 3-bedroom house was going for Sydney eastern suburbs prices. Young couples stretched themselves to impossible debt levels. Then the iron ore price crashed. Housing values collapsed 60% in 3 years. An $800,000 house became worth $320,000. Families were instantly $400,000 to $500,000 underwater. Banks called in loans. Forced sales flooded the market. Prices dropped further. Today, Karratha's population has stabilized around 16,000, down from 21,000 at peak. The town is permanently scarred. Nobody's buying houses anymore. They're renting short-term, waiting for the next bust. Here's why Karratha is number 1. It's proof that Australian regional markets can collapse catastrophically, that government won't save you, and that betting on a mining town is gambling with money you can't afford to lose. One couple bought in 2012 for $890,000. They sold in 2018 for $310,000. They lost $580,000, plus 6 years of mortgage payments, plus their entire deposit. That's not a correction, that's financial annihilation. These 10 towns share a pattern: single industry dependence, aging infrastructure, environmental threats, and populations either fleeing or aging in place. The Australian dream of affordable regional living is not opportunity, it's a trap. When you see that $180,000 house listing, ask a different question. Not can I afford this house? The real question is, can I afford to be trapped here? When the collapse comes, because in every one of these towns, that collapse isn't a possibility. It's already happening, and by the time you realize it, you'll already be underwater. If you found this valuable, hit that like button and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.